Hey, what's going on, subscribers? Today is the day that we actually get to do a wiring harness. Yeah, I finally get to take this thing out of there. I didn't want to take it out just for the sheer fact that I wanted to make sure I had one to replace it. At least one that wasn't effed up, you know? So, if you've been staying tuned on this build, you know that it has been a little bit of a headache to get it up to the point that we're at now, but I drove 3 hours in one direction, spent an hour and a half there ripping out that harness, and I mean, we went fast. You know, we brought all our power guns with us, and we really didn't even care where we dropped the hardware. It was just zing, 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 zing. You know, and just we really didn't even care. You know, and I labeled things as fast as I possibly could, just to kind of put it in the general area that the harness is supposed to be in, and then, you know, we could figure it out from there where to plug it in. It's not that hard. So you can kind of see, you know, my little tags and whatnot, my little tape and stuff. Just that way I can just place it where it needs to go, and I'm like, oh yeah, this goes here, and oh yeah, this goes there, and oh yeah, this goes. It's not hard, guys. It's not rocket science, but man, does it take a long time. So today, all that gets to come out. So we're going to take all that out, and basically, I'm going to do something today that I really don't like to do because it takes so long. I'm going to show you how to take the bulkhead harness out step by step. I was looking on YouTube. I didn't really see anything as far as content or even like a main search of how to remove the entire bulkhead harness. So I guess I'm going to do that boring content, right? So hopefully it helps somebody, and that's the reason why I do these, guys, you know? So hopefully you guys enjoy the amount of work that's about to be entailed in this upload, and don't smack my pee-pee if it's boring. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start with what I start with normally, and the harness here will feed through the actual radiator mount itself. And as you can see, those are usually the first things that rust out, and that's why they are that copper color. But I went ahead and made sure that they broke free so that we can get the harness out of there, because if you don't, you're going to have to cut that out, because a good chance that is probably rotted on your car. That's just what they do. It's a Subaru way, I guess. And now that we know that that harness is going to come out of there, we can actually start unfeeding it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to step into the car, and I'm going to explain the nature of how this is going to be undone, so that you have an idea of what I'm doing while I go to town on disconnecting everything. So in the fashion that it goes around, it's actually kind of different, but in an aspect, once I explain it, you'll understand why. So this harness here has a main plug that goes through the metal here, where this main support is for the door hinges. So it feeds through here, and there's a quick disconnect that you will unplug, and all of this main bulkhead harness here can then be pulled away and disconnected. But before you can do that, it actually feeds also as well through this side. So it goes through here, swoops all the way around to the front of the car, feeds all of the engine bay accessories, comes all the way back around, and plugs back into itself right here where you unplugged it. So all of that will be unfished all from the engine bay and then pulled through the driver's side. That is the fastest way and best way to do it, and that's the fashion that I go in. So I tend to also take off the crash bar here that supports the dashboard, so that I can get that out of the way also as well. It just makes things a lot easier. But believe it or not, the hardest part of this is going to be these HVAC cables. Now they connect to all of your heating, venting, and air conditioning controls, and you want to make sure that they are ran in the same fashion with no kink and no stress on them, and still hooked on the same node or tab that is designated for them. So I will explain which one goes where and what it is, Sorry I'm shaking so much. It's pretty early this morning, still haven't even had breakfast yet, but I'm gonna give you guys an idea. It's going to be time consuming, so be ready. Okay, so looking at it from the engine bay, I'm gonna show you how it feeds through. So it comes out here, feeds all the way down and around. It does feed the main fuse box here, which all the plugs are underneath. There's about 2 or 3 stages of taking this apart in levels before you can get all of the plugs unplugged. And then it also follows down through here, runs down, is sandwiched by the 2 bottom plates for the radiator support. They're going to have the 410 millimeter bolts that actually hold them in place. You get those off, they come off. That's what sandwiches that in there. And then it actually comes up, feeds up and around here. It's going to, you can see it here. And then it's actually going to feed your headlights. And then you've got the harness here that runs through the same fashion, comes up and around and plugs into the actual ABS unit itself. And then what I did not state earlier is it actually comes through twice on the firewall. So you will push these through to take off the tension so that when all of this is unfed, that goes through and then you're able to fish the actual harness off. So now I'm going to go ahead and start unbolting everything. We're just basically, it's basically a lot of series of 10 mils and plastic clips that you basically just pull in and out of the holes that are designated for them, and then we'll be able to unfeed this. It's not rocket science, so I'm not going to sit here and vlog every single process of me doing that. So that way we can just speed it up a little bit, and then we'll get it to where everything is all unbolted and unbuttoned, and then we'll go from there. And make sure that you go through and disconnect your airbag plates here, which underneath here is a 12 millimeter bolt. You'll take this off, this protective plate, and you'll be able to see the yellow sensor underneath there for your airbags. Other than that, it's on the other side as well. So when the car crushes up, well, it's supposed to be on this side, but I don't see it. All right, so everything is all unfed. You see here, I've got all the pressure. It's all pushed up and through. This harness here is actually going to feed up and around here. It'll plug into the master cylinder, and it goes up into the windshield washer motor area. So we're going to have to pull this cowl off. We're going to have to remove the wiper blades. Those have to come off, be disconnected, so we can take this plastic cowl off so we can just basically unplug that motor. And then we can actually unfeed it, push that up and through, you know, release the pressure from the grommet seal itself. And then we can start, I'm tripping, and start feeding it up and through. You know, same thing on the other side also as well. Everything's all unfed. The fuse box here has been sitting for a while. It's got a lot of corrosion and stuff. It's pretty nasty. I guess it's kind of hard to tell on my phone here, but it's not exactly the prettiest one, so I might end up just swapping it out with a good one that I know doesn't have any issues. We'll see how it goes. I mean, the easy thing about the fuse box is it just unplugs, and I can swap it out, no problem, if there is a problem with it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pull the caps off. It's only got one cap on here, so I guess it's going to be pretty easy to do that. And then we'll be able to access the actual nuts that hold it down. We're going to have to close the hood for this because in order to do so, we're going to have to extend the wiper up to, you know, be able to get some leverage so that we can pop it up and off of the pivot point there and separate from the teeth that are in it. You know, it's got little micro teeth that actually connect it together. So with that said, let's do that. Okay, so you can see the wiper arms have to come off because they restrict this plastic cowl from coming off. That harness will feed through this firewall right into the actual wiper arm mechanism itself. So we'll go ahead and we'll unplug this thing. Boom. All that work for that. All right, with that unplugged and unfed and basically just hanging down here, I've already popped the grommet up and through, so I know that everything's ready to go, and I am literally ready to step inside this car. Whoop whoop! You know what? I just got this like overwhelming feeling of excitement just now. I'm super excited and pumped right now about this car. I'm like I'm happy because I know that I could turn around, grab this. I know that there's no issues with that because I pulled it myself and I can put it in here. I'm already about halfway through with taking it out, and I'm going to pretty much end today with getting this out today, which would be a good, nice feat because I've already worked the whole day. So I'm pretty excited right now. This should be pretty awesome. I mean, the car kicked my butt up until this point. I mean, yeah, there's still like maybe one hard thing to do. I got to drop the gas tank. I mean, obviously, I could probably just rig it up, but it's not my style. I don't want to just put this thing together. I mean, yeah, I could be a jerk and be like, well, you said only assembly, but it wouldn't be right. So, and plus, we're on YouTube right now, guys. This is forever, so me showing you what I do and how I do it would be kind of a kick in the teeth. And, I'd be basically contradicting myself on everything that I convey on do it right, do it right, do it right. There's reasons for doing things and taking your time for it because you don't want to have those failures. And I've already had them. So that's why I want to teach you as much as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and start ripping all this out. For now, I'm going to go ahead and start with the main bar right here. We're going to get that out, get that unbuttoned. It's pretty easy. It's got this collar here that actually allows it to slide out and whatnot. So we're going to unbutton that and then undo the plates over there. It's kind of a tight fitment over on that side, but it's not so hard if you have, small ratchet or a universals and whatnot. So we're going to do that. And then I got to disconnect the steering wheel here. Goes on through. Well, I mean, it's not just floating there. So the actual column itself bolts to this main bar here, and that's the crash bar. So we're going to disconnect that also as well. We'll let that dangle down, get that out of the way. And then I can move this crash bar out, get it out of my way. And then we can start untucking things in the process. Especially you want to start in the center here where the radio area is, mainly because that's where the HVAC controls are. Now these cables here, let me turn this light on here. There we go. So what I mean by the cables is you've got these cables here and these control, everything's all on dials and everything is preset, and those teeth, have to be in a certain placement. And then they run all the way back here. Look at that. There's levers and all sorts of other bracketry back here. So you got to make sure that it is on point, because if you don't put it back together in the correct fashion, or take it apart in the correct fashion, I should say, which, by the way, you want to take it apart back here. Now, it has a collar. As you can see here, it's basically you're just going to squeeze these two tabs here together, and then you can actually slide off that metal ring. It's just a bunch of wire that they, twisted around into a circular fashion, and they slid it on there, and it locks on with these teeth here. And when you push them together, you're able to slide that off. The same thing over here. This is just a speed clip here. You can just push this cable up and out, and then this is just a pivot point where this sits in and locks into place. The speed clip holds it. And it follows up and around, as you can see, around the metal, not behind the metal brace. Put it in front of it. Same thing with this side as well. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to follow this. Here is your wire. That goes all the way, and it locks into the valley here as well. And then it carries up and around. Now, when I get this plate off, I've got to remove this plate also as well before you can drop down the column, because that's actually going to be in your way also. So we're going to do that. There's a few things that you actually have to address before you can actually start unfeeding things, and those are the things that you need to do first. And then we'll be able to start unhooking the actual blower system and the actual ventilation itself, the controlled ventilation, which are all the cables. That's what the cables are for. So it also has electronic controlled. So make sure you unplug that. Take your time. make sure you don't need to unplug it. If you don't need to, then don't do it. It's just extra work. Also, in the process, you see this right here? It's a piece of tape and a marker. That is not hard. Be like, oh man, I don't know what plug that is. Well, you do now, doofus. It's not that hard. It takes 2 seconds to write it on some tape and be like, well, you know what? I know that that's the one that goes to the clock. And you know what? I know that's the one that goes to the airbag. And I know that this one goes... Come on, it's not rocket science. Make it easy for yourself. It's already been glorified and tested. The KISS method works. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is remove the airbag module here. It normally has tamper-proof hardware on here, and I noticed that there was some 12 millimeters that were actually holding it, so somebody's definitely already been in here beforehand. If you don't know what a tamper-proof is, it is a Torx head, and it's got that little pin right in the dead center that won't allow you to put a normal Torx head in it. So the Torx head itself will be hollow, the bit that you're using, and that is a tamper-proof. You'll see a lot of them in bathroom stalls and stuff like that, so you can't tamper with them. That's why they're called tamper-proof. Once you move that out of the way, and then we can get to the hardware here because the box itself is basically sitting in the way. Do that. That actually will disconnect one of the grounds as well, so you make sure you put that ground right back on there when you put that hardware back in there. And then I went ahead and disconnected the HVAC lines. Now there are 3 of them. Now the one white one, now remember, they don't go behind this metal, they go in front of it, and then they wrap up and around. So the white cable, which is here on the left, will actually feed up and through here. You can see the light shining through. And then, I should probably turn the light on. Right down in here. It's pretty hard to see. Actually, let me get this cable out of the way. This hose. Okay, and then you see it. It's right there. So there's your arm that you're actually going to put the cable on. You can see the speed clip right there to the left. There's the notch that's right in the middle where that notch fits in. You can just slide the ring on. You know, it's pretty easy. And then that's the one for that. I already showed you the other side here where that's actually where it snaps on. Here's the valley, here's the speed clip, and that is going to be for this one here. And then for your blower motor that accesses that, there's the speed clip here, here's the valley, and then, well, I got some plastic in the way. You can see here, right there, that's where it snaps on. So it's pretty easy, you know, it just basically comes up and around. This one feeds there, this one comes up and around, just goes straight to that. It goes up and around, comes up, and it's not that hard, but I've seen so many people have issues with them, and they're like, oh, my dial's stick, and I can't get it to go all the way, or it's always full, or whatever, you know. So if you're going to take it apart in these, you know, in this manner, make sure you do so. So that's the first step that I do. I'm going to go ahead and start unbuttoning now. I went ahead and took off the hardware for the crash bar. Same thing on that end as well. Basically now the only thing that's holding it is the support here, and then the column itself I've got to unbolt also as well. You've got to snap this plastic surround off of the column so that we can get to the ignition portion and be able to unplug that. Also, big key, I didn't even mention it. There's no seats in here. We have to take the seats out because we have to take the carpet up. Underneath is a harness that feeds, and everything pretty much plugs on this area. There's a whole bunch of plugs here. I think there's like three or four. And yeah, they feed the seat belt and the airbag module, as you can see here. So we're going to have to pull the seat belts also as well, unplug all of that, unplug it from the harness that feeds all the way back to the tail lights. And the fuel pump, etc. You know, we don't need to replace all that. That seems to be fine. And then we'll do the same thing over here. We got to finish pulling this interior panel off, and then we will unplug the seat belt, etc. Yeah, pretty much not too hard. Oh yeah, there we go. Perfect example. See, those are tamper proof. You see, that's got the stud on the center, so you can't just put a normal Torx head in there. Now, if you come across these, you're going to need that. So that is what they are called. They're tamper, T-A-M-P-E-R, tamper proof, so that you're not messing with them. And that's for the airbags. That's the way if you get a side impact, you know that that is going to crush up and deploy the airbag. So I'm pretty sure you can get the idea now that it is a lot of work. It takes hours and hours and hours to do it. I was able to achieve it pretty quickly by ripping out the other harness because we just went up there with zip guns and was going to town. And in this aspect right now, I could probably do the same thing here, but I need to know where all the hardware goes. And in the same process, I am marking everything so I know exactly that that hardware goes back where it's supposed to go, and I'm not fumbling around saying, where's that hardware, etc., etc. Make sure you're labeling everything, put it all in bags. You know, everything's got to have a place. Everything has to have a home. It makes it a lot easier. So I went ahead and I got some piles over there. So I'm going to go ahead and make some bags for that so I know where those go, get those labeled, and then I can start ripping that bar out. Just make sure you label everything, guys. It makes it a lot easier and the process just goes faster. Okay, so I got the plastic shroud off and we're going to go ahead and move on with the ignition portion. I went ahead and unplugged everything. It all basically plugs in this general area. You're just going to unplug all the harnesses from the ignition that feeds that. And then we've got the turn signal feed also as well, which goes here, and it's kind of like a plastic node that just kind of sits on there. And then we're going to go ahead and just start unplugging that. That way we can get that hanging down, and then we can actually dangle down this steering column. I was drawing a blank there for a second. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect the 12 here, and then the main stud here, and then I'll be able to pull this bar right out. Okay, and with that disconnected, as you can see, it's also the same harness that connects for your clock. This is for the feed for the wipers. No, that's the hazards. Yep, that's your hazards. There is your odometer plugs here also as well. That's your main harness here. It also unplugs underneath here, this main plug. You can also do it that way. I don't like to do it there. I've had some issues because that's a lot of pins that are in there, and I tend to just make it a lot easier just to drop this down. For the sheer fact that I like to remove the plastic surround here because I've actually broke it before just taking off this metal bash bar. Plus, you have to take it off anyways, you know, because of the ignition here anyway. So, I mean, you're not going to be able to just unplug there. You can, I mean, obviously there's two different ways of disconnecting the wiper power and the hazards and, you know, etc. But I don't like doing it this way. This is the harness of if you're doing like an odometer swap and you get underneath the dashboard, this is where you're going to unplug it for the odometer swap, especially if you want to run a newer odometer on your car. This is the harness that you're going to send away to iWire. So you want to make sure that you unplug that in the correct fashion. Hopefully you can get it out of here without breaking anything. Boom! Now we got all this vast room. Alright, so now you can really see the orientation of how everything is ran. Now remember, the entire engine bay is already untucked. So now we're basically just going to start unfastening everything from this side of the firewall. Now I try to leave a lot of modules in place because it just makes my life a lot easier than just unplugging everything. You know, especially when it comes to like the interfuse area and, you know, and all the solenoids and whatnot. So we're going to go ahead and start zipping out all of these 10 millimeters that actually hold it in place. And then we can start dangling those down, and then we can start working our way out from there. We are going to have to remove this blower motor. This is going to have to be lowered down and out of the way, as well as the center. You know, so this right here is going to be the heater core surround. This is where you're going to actually have the fluid going through. So in order to remove this, it's actually got these two metal nodes on the back side. And I say nodes. Nodes is totally the wrong word for this. Now, it's got the two ends, the two male ends for your heater core. That's actually where it comes through and protrudes through. So the heater core itself sticks through on the firewall, which is here. So you can see already, you know, what I'm talking about. So you're going to have to disconnect these two hoses first before that big plastic piece, before this whole surround here can come off, because that is actually what's holding there. It's not going to be able to come up and through because those two hoses will actually stop it from going through the firewall. Trust me, I've been there before and I've fought it and been like, what the hell's going on? Everything's disconnected. Why is it not coming off? And it was just because the two hose clamps were holding me up on the other side, and they won't fit through that hole when the hose is on. All right, I'll bring you up to speed where I am now. So I went ahead and I took off all those 10 millimeters that held the top harness there up on top, and they also hold the actual functioning of the HVAC units themselves. So you can see here, this is the bolt hole that you're actually going to put that stud up and on. There's also going to be a 10 millimeter underneath this. That's what takes that off, and then it just kind of feeds into the side of this unit here. Nice and snug. It's pretty easy. We're just going to go ahead and also, there's two plugs. One plug that feeds over from here that's off of this harness, which is here. This is this brown plug that plugs into here. And then underneath, you can see it there, is the main plug for the bottom of the blower, which is here. You know, and then what did I do with the harness? I unplugged it and pushed it off to the side somewhere. So, but yeah, you got to unplug the blower, and then you can actually disconnect it and then move it up and out of your way. And then you got the final one, which is down here, your third plug. And then we'll disconnect these. There we go. And then it should come right up and out. And we'll fish this up and over. I need two hands. Once you move the harness out of the way, it's not too bad. And then, get that last 10 mil sneaking off over in the corner over here. There's two 10 mils on the bottom. Get that. That goes there. Close up and out of the way. And there's your unit here, you know, so your 10 millimeter would be here, and then if you're looking underneath it and where that plug is here, right over is where the other 10 mil is there. All right, so now you can really see how this thing is fed. So here's that harness. That's where it feeds on through here, and then there's the first part that goes through the firewall here. Go ahead and grab that grommet. Start feeding that up and through. You can see that we can actually start pushing that through the firewall now from the engine bay, and we'll get that kind of sitting right here. But first, you can already see what's next. We'll disconnect that ECU. Oh yeah, somebody's definitely been in here. They even spray painted the ECU bracket here because those are not painted from the factory. They are a bare metal finish. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and we'll start pulling. What in the heck? Oh, wow, that's torn to shreds. I bet that would work real good. See, that's your, I think that's the drain. Yeah, it is. Holy cow. So, yep, we're going to go ahead and start feeding this up and through and pull this here. And we'll jump through to the other side here. It'd be a lot easier. Oh, yeah, I can see him down there snagged on that subframe. The plugs are. So we'll get that off of there. That'd be the reason why I couldn't pull it through. Yep. So that's one. Come on, focus, my crocus. Ah, focus. What do you need, light or something? Is that what your problem is? Goodness. Alright, so that's one. Get out of the engine bay. Okay, we got the ABS. Feed that up and through. Alright. Come on. You stay. You're just being all sorts of dumb, aren't you? Okay, it's going to be a two-hander job. Alright, now it's time to feed through the center section for the heater core and the HVAC center. In order to do that, this is where it protrudes through for the unit, also as well for the heater core. So we're going to disconnect these two hoses, get those up out of the way, and then this one 10 millimeter, we'll take this off because obviously you can't, this is all stopping us right now. So we're going to do that and then move on from there. All right, so with those disconnected, it just basically comes right up and out. It only has 3 mounting places basically, which is this stud here, that stud here, and then that mounting face. And then it just, it feeds through. You can see the rubber grommet, area there, and then where the 2 heater hoses would have been. So I mean, obviously you can see the size diameter of that. They're not going to fit through. That's why you have to take them off. And the same thing with the line also as well. Obviously you're not going to be able to pull that metal line up and through the firewall. But now you're starting to get the idea of how this goes, So I've already pulled everything through the firewall here and through the side here also as well. So I know that the harnesses are completely through. On this side, there is a body plug back here. This kind of just pulls down type deal. It's like a plug, plastic plug. It just went flying, but I'll get it. Same thing underneath here. It's just a plastic plug. Let me see if I can find my upholstery tool. There it is, sorry. We'll just pop that down. Come on, old guy. Oh, it's because I've got it still sitting on this tooth. There is a tooth that like hangs over like a shelf and whatnot. I can even see the stress that I'm actually putting into it. So you just kind of pick up on that and then take it up off that shelf. You see the tooth there? So that's the main reason why that wasn't coming out. That's why that was fighting me. Look at that. It actually came out on its own after I did that. And then, yeah, there's a plug here also as well that attaches it into that steel, etc. And then we're going to start pulling this up and through that side, and we'll feed it all back on through. All right, I got everything all buttoned up, or at least unbuttoned, I should say. So I got all the clutch assembly, pedals, all that stuff as well. I'm ready to just start pulling through this side here. Now remember that this harness is garbage. We're not going to reuse it, so I'm going to cheat. I'm just going to cut that harness off right there where it stands, because I would have to feed all this through that little hole, and it does take a little bit of time, and that time I'd rather spend on that goofball right there. So with that said, I'm going to grab this harness and I'm going to cut that. We'll get this up out of the way. Now remember, the last thing that we're going to have to do is pull this carpet up now so that we can disconnect it from the actual body itself and from the side airbags, etc. Sorry, I am breathing a little bit heavy. I'm tired. I'm trying to do it pretty quick and explain it all at the same time. So right over here, you pull this back, and that's where all your plugs are. I went ahead and I unplugged majority of them already. You can see there's already some, like someone has been in here. They've tapped into it, etc. So I want to make sure that it's right, and that's why we replaced it. You can even see all this stuff's been spray painted, so there's probably definitely like a rust issue. Oh goodness, yes, there is definitely a rust. Whoa, there's not even a plug there. So yeah, this is usually the problem part when you pull these carpets up, and you're like, ah! Yeah, so we'll just put that back. Yeah, so I'm glad that's unplugged. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and just keep unfeeding this. I am going to now pull the module out of here and disconnect the battery also, or not the battery, wow, I'm like tired because I must be losing it right now. I'm like fumbling like a mother. So with that said, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pull that airbag module here and the seat belt out so that we can unplug those 2 modules, and yeah, then I can just rip this thing out and set it on the floor, and then we can finally be done with today. I'm getting tired. Not to mention the back breaker of in and out. Oof. And the lightheadedness that is acclimated with this job. So in and out, up and down a lot. I'm tired. I'm starting to show symptoms of, I'm glad this thing is just now starting to get done, so I can actually head out and go home and get some sleep tonight, which is great. So without making this upload too long and drawn out, let's go ahead and finish it up. I'll pull out this panel here, we'll disconnect that, and then like I said, we'll do the same thing like I did on the other side. Take the airbag module and the seat belt out of there and unplug it, and then we'll be done for today. But guys, that's basically it, you know, and then you can just pull it out of there, and then we're ready to actually do a swap, which is awesome, you know, so it's really not that bad. Yeah, I mean, it takes a long time to do it. I get it. Come on, give me my tools. But, you know, it's one of those things where it had to be done, and in order to do it right, that's how it had to be done. So these are tamper-proof. You see how they are hollow? That's what you're going to need, some tamper-proofs, so that we can take out that stupid airbag module. But hey, it's not so stupid when it saves your life, right? You know, and in this aspect, he's missing an airbag module, so he'll probably end up deleting them anyways. So I guess it really doesn't matter. You know, I probably could cut it and get away with that and just not even unplugging it, but that's not my MO. He could always put in another airbag module later, plug that in, and be back in business and actually have full functioning airbags if he wants to do so. So that's the way we're going to do it. So now we'll go ahead, we'll take this out, tamper-proof those out. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, so I got it dropped down out of the way. The seatbelt module here, it's a 10 and a 14 on the bottom. I'll slide that up and out of the way. And then you can see the harness up inside, you know, that follows up and through. You can see that's where it goes up and in. All right, I got that bastard out. Everything is already fed out. It's an empty car now. Now it's down to a shell. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's upload today. And yeah, I ended up putting a little bit more into it. Some blood. Ended up cutting myself pretty good. Prying on something I shouldn't have. So make sure you guys, you know, obviously use those safety glasses and safety gloves and etc., etc. Me personally, it's a lot easier barehanded, and I was just basically prying on something, and I caught some of the steel, and I ended up just slicing my finger really good. So it's really dirty too, so it's going to be fun to clean when I get home. With that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed. Probably a little bit boring, but it gives you probably an idea. At least it gives you, I know it gives you a better idea of how they go in and how they're fed, what you're looking at, etc. So let's say you're trying to do a swap, you get this thing in the mail, and you have no idea how to put it into your coupe or sedan or whatever you're swapping over. That's how it's done. That's how it's ran. And by the way, there will be an upload on how to put that new harness in here, and that'll be the next upload. And then after that, we'll be able to set an engine on that freaking subframe. That'd be pretty nice. You know, I think that'll probably be the next thing after that. And then be able to put downpipe on, and I can actually start doing the exhaust work, which would be great. I haven't even been able to hang an exhaust on this because I'll just save that for another upload. It's just another headache. We'll put it that way. I'm going to have to chop it up and, you know, put in a little custom piece and make it work and whatnot, because it's got an electric cutoff on it, and it doesn't even fit in the transmission tunnel. So that's going to have to get cut off, and there's a whole bunch of welds on there that aren't even solid or welded all the way around. Previous guy, I'm going to have to fix those because, man, they bother my OCD really bad. Going to grind all those out, fix all those. Obviously, that wasn't part of the deal, but I want to do it, you know? I mean, this car's going to be fucking nice now, you know? I mean, with all of this work that I put into this thing, it's going to be pretty nice. So with that said, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the upload today. I put some blood, sweat, and tears into it. No tears, no crying. Well, maybe I did kind of whine today. With that said, have a good day.